Is it better to laugh alone or to cry with friends?
Yeah.
That's the burning question today. When people have an invention idea, the first thing they want to do is find a partner, find a buddy who's on board. Let's partner up. Let's do this. With no real plan of how the money's going to be divvied up or
Yep.
who does what. That gets ugly quick.
It can. And, unfortunately, I have not an invention story where I partnered up with a good friend. He was best buddy of 10 years in real estate.
Sure.
And we bought 2 apartment buildings together. And it was one of those scenarios where things got rough on his side. And I made the mistake of letting him handle finances.
Oh.
And, you don't think twice when it's just like, this is how it works. Long story short, it went super sour. Ended up filing a bankruptcy.
Oh, wow.
Having to file a bankruptcy. And over the course of all the years that it's taken me to somewhat try to repay things and a mortgage on my house and all this stuff, upwards of probably $2 million lost. And I say that because the apartment buildings, they each gained $1 million in value,
Right.
plus all the rents that got crazy good, plus the cash that I put into it.
Right.
Am I anti-partnership? Not whatsoever. What I am is these days be so much more. Just know what you're getting into.
Be
and put it on
cautious,
paper.
be leery, and be very proactive.
And the biggest fear, I think, especially amongst friends, I mean, it's like asking, your wife or your future wife or future husband for a prenup. It feels off. You don't want to do it. It feels dirty.
Yeah.
And that's like the partnership. It's like, hey, I think we should get this on paper. What if things go wrong? And you're like, I don't want to do that, and I don't want to rattle the thing. And you absolutely have to. And especially in business, you should never ever look at it as a scary or weird thing or, oh, you don't trust me, because the truth is things happen.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah.
I had a buddy, I was well into my business, and I do things alone. I've always been kind of a lone wolf, but I had a buddy call me up, and he said, hey, you're in social media, you're into video, blah, blah, blah. Me and my buddies, we want to start our own Barstool Sports. Okay. So I'm asking how you're going to do it, how you're going to go about it, who do you know, what are their skills? And really, it just sounded like a bunch of his Marine friends getting together, each of them now living in different states, and they're going to shoot deer hunting videos and things like that and talk about it, and they're going to create a culture of outdoorsmen. Mm-hmm. I said, well, the first thing I would do if you're serious is I would start a business, and I would get the 4 of you on paper of who owns what and who does what. Needless to say, they dissolved because every time my friend called me, he's like, I'm doing all this stuff. I'm writing all these posts. And Johnny down in Florida hasn't done jack wagon.
Yeah.
And he still wants 25% eventually. Or I just know I better be getting 35%. So everyone's mind wasn't focused on work. It was focused on percentage. Mm-hmm. What am I doing? If that's not clear from the jump, you are doomed to fail.
You absolutely are. And the big thing I always say, well, now is just make sure everybody's equally vested in it. It's so different if, I'm putting in 20,000 and you're putting in your time, and then you're not holding up to your end of the bargain. You've lost time, which is absolutely valuable. Don't get me wrong. Everybody's time is, but in the case of 2 people starting out in something, I've saved up a lot of money. I'm putting forth all this, and once your money's gone, you're not getting either back. But make sure people are equally invested. We both have something to lose, because if you don't have something to lose, that one person can always kind of just skizzle out, and then that other person gets screwed.
Yeah, it's called skin in the game, and it's a very real thing.
Yep.
It's why whenever someone wants to get in on something, even if you don't need the money, you make them put in money.
Yeah.
That's the skin in the game. That's their motivation. So going back to the beginning of this, I know for me, when I first had an invention idea, the first thing I did was I went through my memory bank of, okay, what cousin do I know that might be a lawyer? Mm-hmm. What friend do I know that might be an engineer? What schoolmate do I remember that may run a warehouse or fulfillment service?
Yeah.
And I'm going to compile this A team of people I know and get them on board with what I'm doing with some financial stake. Now, I didn't do that, obviously, but I think that's where a lot of people's mind goes, is that this would be a lot easier with help. Personally, I think it's way more challenging with help. If you have really good help, like you and I struck a very good rapport.
Yeah.
You have your business, I have mine, but we collaborate on a podcast and a lot of other ventures to where money never crosses the lines, or if it does, it's petty cash. Ownership doesn't cross the lines. And that's very important because we can focus on bringing our viewers quality and not wondering how much money we're going to get. So what I want to encourage people to do is be very leery. And there's a great phrase, which is the theme of this podcast. It's better to laugh alone than to cry with friends. And it's so very true, in my opinion.
Well, and you brought it up, and in our case, and in a lot of people's case, sometimes the partnership can be as simple as motivation. And, that's for us, we do the podcast, and, we also have work days, and we also collaborate on media stuff, which is great. We've kept things very separate. And it's nice to be able to bounce ideas off of someone. It's nice to share bad days and good days.
Yeah.
And sometimes I'll call you up and I'm like, oh man, no sales today, and this isn't happening, and I don't feel like shooting something. And you just push through it, and that's priceless too. So don't think that a partnership has to be, I put in $20 and you put in 20 minutes or whatever it may be. It can absolutely be that. But, I'm always a fan of having somebody else to bounce that stuff off, just reiterating when it comes to getting into the nitty gritty and money, just make sure both parties have something to lose and the equal amounts to offer. And then also that things are down on paper. I can't stress enough that don't feel weird about bringing that up. And you say it's just business. You've heard that term, it's just business.
Right.
At that point, it truly is. Like you're just protecting yourself from what can happen, because whatever can happen will probably happen.
Yeah. Right. So let's go through a scenario where if you and I wanted to start a landscaping company, or let's just keep it very simple, lawn mowing business. We don't go beyond running weed whackers around the edges. But this business happened to be, we were going to run it in your town.
Right.
Okay, and you live 40 minutes away. And this business is going to require 2 lawnmowers and 2 weed eaters and 2 blowers.
Okay.
Well, it just so happened you already had that equipment. Okay, but I want in on the business. So you're supplying the equipment, and we're using your trailer, your truck, and everything, right? So you've got quite a stake in this company. You have a lot to lose. You've put forth a lot. So what you and I would have to decide on paper is, okay, how much percentage is what I already have worth? To me, off the top of my head, based on what you have in those assets, and thinking you're a hard worker and marketer and everything else, you should own 75% of that company or more. Me, I'm just showing up with my teeth in my head and pushing a lawnmower around. But I'm a hard worker, and you need that sweat, all that good stuff. So maybe you're generous enough and you say 25% is cool. That would be a good way to split up equity.
Yeah, I think in that scenario, it almost sounds like I'm just hiring an employee. But
Yes, in landscaping, you should only hire employees. You don't need a partner if you're landscaping.
But not like that. But it doesn't mean that, let's just say you're going to be. I've got these things. I've got the lawnmowers, the trailer, and all that. But I don't know how to get our name out there. I don't know how to market. You come in with marketing experience. You're going to do all the social media for us. You're going to do that stuff. I think that makes a more valid partnership. But even that, if you just be like, the thing is, I already own that equipment, so that's
no. You bought it for this.
Oh,
business.
You're saying I bought it. Okay,
Yeah.
in our scenario, yeah. Well, in that case, then absolutely, that's another one of those other scenarios where you definitely have it on paper, because if you walk away from nothing, right?
Yeah.
But I'm stuck with, let's say, $20,000 worth of equipment.
I could walk away and still own 25% of the company and do no work.
Right.
You're basically married to me.
Right.
So what you would have to say in that scenario is, okay, you can have 25%, but let's be honest, anybody can push a lawnmower.
Right.
We're going to have a lot unforeseen expenses come up. So let's open a joint bank account, and why don't you put $5,000 in that bank account, and that will earn you your skin in the game. That will earn you your 25% of this company. I think that'd be a more reasonable way to go about making sure everyone is accounted for.
It is. Another nice way to do it, which I've known to work for people, is, and it's not so much a direct partnership as far as giving a small percentage to somebody. And you do that, that's a time-based or performance-based.
Sweat equity.
Sweat equity. So, maybe somebody comes in and says, you know what, I'm going to do your marketing, and hey, if we can grow the business 10 times or 2 times, or whatever the number is, in a year, then you get 10% of the company. And then the harder they work, the more money they make.
Yeah.
I've seen that work very, very well in a lot of different scenarios. But again,
where they like tier up or they hit milestones.
They
and
hit
benchmarks.
milestones, and it has to be time. It's not one of these things you give them 10% off the bat, they leave after 6 months. Now they have 10% of your company. You got to be very careful with doling out. And you actually have really good examples of people wanting to come in and give you cash for a percentage of your company. And then by the time that kind of rolled around, you were already past needing or wanting that percentage to give up, because you're like, my company's already worth more than that would have been. I'm so glad I didn't give that up.
Oh yeah, there's been a lot of I'm so glad moments. And my fundamental principle is, as a lone wolf, is I'll figure it out. I can hire someone and pay them by the hour or by the job to do all these tasks. So I think Alex Hormozy always kind of comes out and says, you can either do engineering, sales, or marketing. It's 3 main things. And if you can't do all 3, you need to partner with 2 more people who can do that. Well, okay, I get what he's saying. You have to know those 3 things for sure. You can also sub out people who know those things. Or you can figure out enough. I like the phrase, I know enough to be dangerous. I'm kind of a jack of all trades. I know just enough about a subject to hire the right person to carry it out. Mm-hmm. The way that happens with me is I'm kind of like a hobbyist or whatever. I'll learn just enough about video editing to know the right questions to ask my video editors. Mm-hmm. Are you doing it in 4K? What's the aspect ratio? How are you laying in text? Are you exporting with this? So you don't just have to throw your hands in the air and say, I could never do marketing, so I got to find somebody to partner with to do that for me. No, you can get on YouTube, learn just enough about marketing in a 30-day span, educate yourself for 25 minutes a day. You'll have a good enough grasp that, oh, wow, affiliate marketing is hot. That's the 2023 thing. Mm-hmm. So I need to just find a good affiliate marketing third-party company to carry out this marketing. We'll see if it works.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's no rhyme or reason for these things. Again, you just have to feel it out. Maybe you can't even start what you're trying to start without a partner, for whether it's them giving you the knowledge or them putting in cash or whatever it may be. I'll keep punching this home, but I am still very much a fan of partnerships. You just have to have it laid out on paper. Yeah. Don't feel bad about having it laid on paper. Don't think it's an awkward moment between you two and it bridges the gap of trust. It doesn't.
Right.
It's not about that, and just be equally vested in that.
Right.
Yeah.
So very practically, the way I would go about this if I needed a partner in the beginning is I would find a tax and business solution service in your town. Mm-hmm. I would go to them, establish them, which if you've listened to prior podcasts, you should have already established. I use RM Taxes here in Santa Clarita, California. So when I need my taxes done, I go to her and the ladies take care of me. If I bring on a partner, I go to her and I say, this just happened. How do we handle it? Now, what the business solution professional will do for you and your partner to be, they'll sit down, they'll talk with you and say, okay, how are we divvying this up? Most likely, they're going to open up a corporation in your guys' name. They're going to lay out the articles of incorporation, which means who's in it, why they're in it, and what they're doing in this business. Mm-hmm. And it's even going to, somewhere in the documentation, it's going to lay out Marcus threw in $5,000 so that he has skin in the game. Now he has 25% of the company, and part of his responsibilities are to do X, Y, Z. All this can probably be accomplished for $700 to $1,200. You're basically taking a day of this lady or gentleman's time to draw this up and file it off with the state. So you and your partner can split that, obviously, and that's going to be in there too. Like you guys are even splitting the cost of all expenses at this percentage rate. You have contingency plans. What do I do if I want to get out of this? And just talk with this business professional. Say, what happens if we have the third kid that we were planning on having and I just can't anymore? Okay, then there's a buyout clause. And at any time you can buy out for 25% of the company's valuation at that time. So this may all sound kind of big and grandiose, but at the end of the day, it's a 3-page piece of paper that a tax professional in your town types out every day. Every restaurant you drive by, every store, every business, they have articles of incorporation. They probably have partners because people love partners. This is very common, very simple business. So to just get into business and then one day be like, oh no, what do we do? I mean, maybe you can dream up a scenario where two guys start working together and 3 years later, they don't know who owns what and something comes up.
Yeah. But I mean, you brought up there's two points I want to make off of that. One is, a partner could pass away and then their significant other could come after something. So if it's not laid out and it's messy, then that can bring a whole thing. So just having it down on paper, who owns what happens in the case of, that other person wanting to leave or something happening like that.
Right.
But also that you brought up, I'm not everybody's going to have the $1,200 or want to in the beginning. I'm sure there are tons of kind of blanket forms that you can find on a Google or just download. If nothing else, just make sure you at least have those terms laid out on paper in the most basic form, so you have something in hand if you had to take it to court, if you had to do that, because, man, I can't stress that enough. And, the other thing in my case is people were like, oh, well, can you sue this person? Can you do whatever? They had nothing. And so the only person who's going to make money in that case is the lawyers. It wasn't about that.
Right.
So I just, you push on. I'm young. I'm smart. I'll remake that money. And I took that whole thing as a lesson, a really crap lesson.
Yeah.
But other than that, that's that.
Yeah. Well, you told your partner story. I want to tell mine.
Yeah, do it.
When I was about 11 years old, some buddies and I wanted to start mowing lawns.
Yep.
And so we did every young man has done this in their life, I think, most of them. So we grabbed our father's lawnmowers, met up in the middle of the street, and said, all right, where do we start? Mm-hmm. And quickly you find out that someone pretty much has to do sales all day, which is knocking the door and getting the job. Someone's mom is going to be pissed that they're using the mower and they're not going to let him use the mower. So that kid's just kind of walking around with his hands in his pockets. And then somebody's going to be the workhorse. Somebody's just going to blood, sweat, and tears, just put their head down and mow all day long. And then you start to assign value to these things. Mm-hmm. So you get finished with a job, and then you go to the door, and the guy hands you $20. Now you got to split $20 three ways. And that's a pain in the butt. So now you're going to your parents and you're asking for change. These are all petty details, but it's kind of comical,
Yeah.
Put you in the shoes of an 11-year-old. So after a couple weeks and, doing this a couple times a week, you've done 5 to 10 jobs, you've even got some reoccurring customers, you start to think, God, our best customer is Mr. Hensworth. He pays us $20 for every job, and every time he pays us, we got to go get change from mom and dad and split it up, and someone always gets 25 cents more because you can't divide 20 by 3. Do we really need Jared in our business anymore? So we came to that moment where it was like, gosh, we don't need 3 guys to do this.
Right.
And why are all 3 of us trying to split a $20 bill? How much more magical would it be if me and Timmy could split 20, get 10 apiece? Now emotions were involved. And I'll never forget, we did this. We kicked Jared out of the business. And Jared's mom cornered me in their house because we were still friends. And she scolded me. Yeah. Whose mower did you use most of those jobs? Which wasn't hers, so I don't know where that was. And who did this? And who showed up for every job? And of course, I'm a docile 11-year-old. I just took it on the chin with my head down. But then I realized, oh my God, partnerships are so messy. I'm getting my ass handed to me verbally by Jared's mom.
Yeah.
That's That's why I'm a lone wolf, man.
Jared's mom ruined you.
Totally ruined me.
Yeah.
Just burned a hole in my heart with those eyes.
Three is hard. Like you said, I mean, that's even more mud in the pit. And I think I was 12 and I did a car washing business with my buddy, and it actually worked fantastic. Like it was only a couple materials and you had your stuff. We'd show up together. We'd wash the car. We did really well for being a little high-end car wash around the neighborhood. But yeah, you get 3 in there and somebody's always not going to work as hard or put in the time or have the time. And then you're just like, oh man, they don't deserve a third.
Right.
It's hard.
Yeah. So do what you do best and outsource the rest.
Yeah.
Be a jack of all trades. Be dynamic.
Yeah.
Know a little about a lot. And if you find yourself, we had a conversation with a gentleman who was just such an engineer at heart.
Mm-hmm.
And it's sad because you're like, that's great that you're a good engineer, but that is 1/8, I would say, of this process.
Yep.
Figure out how it works and move the F on, man.
Yep.
Figure out how to make it. Now figure out how to sell it. Now figure out how to afford more inventory. You have to be good at you don't have to be an expert at anything. That's what I love about this.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to go to school for 6 years and become an expert in marketing. That is a waste of time and money. Just know a little about a lot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, there's no hard rule. There's no, we all have different experiences, and some people have fantastic partnerships. A lot of people have absolutely horrible stories. I think it'll be nice to share maybe some of those stories on another podcast. But yeah, get it down on paper. Make sure everything's clear. If this, then this. If this happens, then this is what happens. Yeah. And don't feel weird about that.
I would say one final note so that I get the last word.
Yeah, do it. Say it.
No, is the main thing that establishing these rules in the beginning is going to do for you is eliminate the potential for drama.
Sure.
Because 9 times out of 10, when you really start to have these conversations in the beginning, your buddy Tom's like, I'm out. I'm good. If you really think I only get 25%, I'm good. Oh, you really think you're going to, back out after 3 years and try to buy me out of this? Nah, forget it. So it's not so much being so prepared for everything. It's testing one another. Mm-hmm. What would you do if I had a third kid and I didn't have time to do the marketing anymore? Would you be mad? Would you be upset? Because that could happen, and I want to plan for it. So you're testing your partner, you're testing one another, and you're kind of seeing how thick your skin is. Most of the time, you'll find that someone's going to pull back on that. All right, guys. Well, that pretty much wraps up today's episode on partnering. Is it better to laugh alone or to cry with friends? Listen, guys, thanks a lot for tuning in. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Follow the podcast on whatever platform you may be on. Remember, Marcus and I took the punches so that you don't have to. So at the end of the day, we want you to take advantage of that. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you on the next one.